You've got a stunning HDR grade, made trims to various monitoring targets, and rendered out your project. But how do you check that everything's okay with your work before handing off files to a distributor? Well, in this video, we take a look at essential QC, or quality control in a Dolby Vision workflow, including metadata validation and checking tone-mapped outputs. We'll also explore something called HDMI tunneling, which is a cool way of checking out Dolby Vision content on a Dolby Vision capable consumer monitor, like the one that we're using here.
Now, there's different QC checks you can do depending on how you delivered your Dolby Vision master. If you delivered a ProRes or TIFF sequence with an XML of the metadata, first, play back the HDR PQ image master on an HDR reference display. Look for any artifacts or problems in the HDR grade. Then, render out a tone-mapped MXF or ProRes file at a Rec. 709 SDR target from your grading system. Problems in the tone-mapped version could be attributed to bad metadata or problems within the HDR grade. You want to look for out-of-sync metadata, sudden, unexpected brightness changes in the middle of shots, and look for shots or scenes that are obviously too bright or too dark. If you've created a mezzanine file with the Mezzanator, use a mezzanine-capable partner product with CMU support, for example, Clipster, Transcoder, or Cortex. Play back the mezzanine file on an HDR reference display. Look for any HDR grading issues, but also check for JPEG 2000 compression problems in the mezzanine file. Then, using a CMU, play back the mezzanine to a tone-mapped SDR target. And again, look for out-of-sync metadata, sudden brightness changes in the middle of shots, or shots and scenes that are obviously too bright or too dark.
No matter how you export your Dolby Vision master, you should perform a validation check on the XML of your metadata. Dolby Vision XML can easily be validated using Metafire, which is a part of the Dolby Professional tools. Metafire checks the XML file to ensure that it meets spec, and you should consider using Metafire as a standard QC step.
So let's run Metafire to verify our XML. The command I'm going to run is metafire --validate, and then I'll specify the XML file. And when I hit enter, you can see Metafire gives us a summary of the XML and tells us if it's passed or failed any of the Metafire checks. At the bottom, you can see it says there's no issues found in this metadata. If Metafire flags problems with your XML, you'll need to address them in your grading system and re-export.
Another way to confidence check your Dolby Vision grade is to watch it on a consumer monitor. And many consumer TVs have Dolby Vision processing, which in real time tone maps Dolby Vision content to the capabilities of that display. And if you've ever watched Dolby Vision on popular streaming services, you've seen this in action. In other words, a consumer TV needs to be told to go into Dolby Vision mode. This can't happen with a mezzanine file, so there are two ways to get a consumer display into Dolby Vision mode: encoded content, i.e. Netflix, Amazon, Vudu, etc., or by using HDMI tunneling on an eCMU. HDMI tunneling via the eCMU sets the TV into Dolby Vision mode, and it embeds metadata over HDMI that enables Dolby Vision. This allows you to view the Dolby Vision grade as a consumer would see it on their TV. Just like Joey mentioned earlier, look out for metadata errors, like out-of-sync metadata causing jumps in brightness mid-shot, or shots that are obviously too dark or too bright. And a few additional things to consider about tunneling is that currently it's limited to HD resolution. And tunneling is not meant as a replacement for proper reference monitoring to view target trims. Dolby recommends that you calibrate your consumer TV using calibration tools like those found in SpectraCal's Cowman software. Let me show you how HDMI tunneling works. It's pretty straightforward. First up, ensure that the eCMU is being fed a signal from your color grading system via SDI, as it would be for normal eCMU operation. Then connect the HDMI output from the eCMU to a consumer Dolby Vision capable TV. Just note that the HDMI output from the Kona 4 card in the eCMU is actually a mini HDMI connector. So if you're not using the supplied eCMU cabling, you'll need a mini HDMI to full-size HDMI adapter, or cable.
For HDMI tunneling to work properly, you'll need to have analyzed and trimmed to any targets that your project requires.
Once everything is connected properly, log into the eCMU via a web browser and jump over to the configuration page. Here at the bottom of the configuration page, you can toggle between SDI output, the normal operation mode of the ECMU, and HDMI, which lets you use the ECMU for tunneling. Let's go ahead and choose that option.
In just a moment, the ECMU will switch over to tunneling mode and output via HDMI. When this happens, you'll briefly see the TV flash that it's in Dolby Vision mode. From here, you can watch your project down, checking for any problems and verifying your grade in Dolby Vision. Again, just be careful not to make any critical decisions about your trims based on the HDMI tunneling preview alone. After mastering and QCing your project, what happens next? Your Dolby Vision mezzanine file, or IMF, can be sent to a distributor for encoding. Distributors will use enterprise-level encoders that support Dolby Vision to create an encoded master that's ready for streaming. Distributors can also use your Dolby Vision master to create other derived files, such as HDR10 and SDR versions of a project. Or you can provide those through the use of CM Offline or direct renders from your grading system, as described in earlier videos in this series.
Well, we're nearing the end. Up next, we wrap up this series and talk about some additional HDR and Dolby Vision resources.